Welcome to our core JavaScript Essentials Introductory course. Within this lesson, we're going to be talking about how to add JavaScript to your web page, to your HTML document, and also how to create interactive content using JavaScript. So JavaScript gives you the ability to really make your HTML pages come to life. We already have a web page that we've built up here. We've got some potential interaction areas where we've got some buttons on the page. And we're going to be using JavaScript to create that dynamic web content that allows the user to interact with your web page and get a response using JavaScript. Essentially, the core parts of JavaScript are going to be data types, so variables, where you can set a particular value or variable and use that within the script. So if we wanted to set a value of a and we want to give it a value of 1, it would make a lot more sense. So we could actually, I'm just going to write out document write. And what this is going to do, this is going to write out whatever value we have here, and it's going to write that out on JavaScript. So if we have 1 plus 1, and we go out to the page, and remember this is going to be at the bottom, and I'm just going to remove this one out for now. Go back out and refresh the page. And we see that this is what our JavaScript is outputting, so it's outputting a 2. We can maybe see that a little bit better here within our console. When we go all the way down here, we see that this is the actual output. I'm just using Chrome, and this is the default console that's available within Chrome. And you can access this by doing the inspect element. On a Windows machine, it's Control-Shift-I, and that opens up this console panel. And within the console panel, when you are developing JavaScript and you are developing code within your web page, this is going to become very useful for you. So we can see up here, when I do click this particular element and I do inspect element, it brings me right to the JavaScript. So here I have that JavaScript. I had declared that variable, so I was using an integer and I'd given a value of 1. And then I've got this document write 1 plus 1, and that's what's outputting that content right there. So the reason that we use variables is that we can reuse them over and over again. So if I had something like this and I had 2 different rows, actually I'm going to document write out so I have a separate row there as well. And I'm also going to do this just so that it's a little bit more visible when we're looking at it. Typically you wouldn't be wrapping a script tag in this fashion. There's other ways to attach content using the DOM, and we're going to get into that later on in the course. But for now, so we've got one document write, we're doing 1 plus 1, the other one is doing 1 plus 1, and this one is just outputting a line break, a typical HTML line break. And what this is going to do, this is going to write this content out onto our web page, into our HTML content, and we can see that they're both doing the same thing. We've got 1 plus 1 here and 1 plus 1, so we've got 2 outputs of 2 essentially. Now, what if we wanted to change these values? All of a sudden, we've realized that we're not actually doing 1 plus 1, we're doing 2 plus 1. So we have to actually change it in both spots. And actually, when we refresh it, we can see that the values do change, but this isn't an efficient way to do it. And that's where these variables come in. And when I'm setting a variable of a, that means that I can use a now, and it's going to hold this value that I've assigned to it up here, and it's going to use that down here at the bottom. So this a plus 1 actually becomes 1 plus 1. And the same with this one, a plus 1 becomes 1 plus 1. And as you develop out your JavaScript code, it's going to become more apparent why you need to use these variables and how changing the value of one part of the variable can actually change all of your output and make it a lot more effective and efficient and allow you to create more complex formulas. So now when I go out here, I can see that the values are 2, and that's because we've got an assigned value of 1, which relates to the A, and when we call it over here, the browser already knows that A contains a value of 1, so it's just doing 1 plus 1 and 1 plus 1 again down there and returning a value of 2. And there are several different data types, and we're going to be getting into the different types as well in the upcoming lessons. So also with this, we can do something like assign another value to B, and maybe this time we're going to make it 5. So we can do A plus B. We could even do something like A times B, and I'm just going to give A another value. So this shows up a little bit differently. So now these are going to take in the values that we've assigned up here, and all it's doing is, all this document write is doing is it's writing whatever I've got within the brackets here, it's writing that out into the HTML page. So now we have A plus B, which is like saying 4 plus 5, and we have A times B, which is like saying 4 times 5. And we go back out and we refresh it, and we see we do have in fact value of 4 plus 5 and 4 times 5.